Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another workout. And you guys aren't used to me ever putting anything up on my off days. The whole topic has come up of me saying I've been gradually increasing my metabolic conditioning or GPP work, and a lot of people are like, well, what are you doing? So I'm like, you know what, I'm already vlogging everything else. I'm going to start vlogging some of this. Now, realistically speaking, we can't get an entire day's worth of this into one video. This one is going to be, I think, over 12 minutes. This is just my first 4 rounds with no breaks. That's just how long it takes to do each round. I like to take a minute, maybe 90 seconds between rounds and do several in a row. So these were all done back to back to back. And I did these 4, and I'm gonna give some disclosure here. I didn't do any upper body stuff after this because yesterday for my stuff, it was a little more upper body dominant. I did 100 chin-ups and 100 dips yesterday in supersets on an off day. I have to do a max bench tomorrow. Tomorrow's my max effort bench press day. I'm not doing that today. Not going to do it. So I stopped at these 4 rounds of that, and I wanted it to be a little more lower body focus. So I'm going to do a bunch more step ups and GHRs and all that for the remainder of the day. But this is a good little bit of work. Now, I'm not wearing a lot. And people can see, you know, people always want to talk about, they'll mention the loose skin, and I'll get some people, oh, that's disgusting, I don't want to see it. Or they're like, you're fat. It's like, guys, at this point, I'm healthy lean at this point. I've lost 100 pounds of body fat in the past. I'm going to have some loose skin until I get leaner. Now, the problem with loose skin like that, because you see it there, it accentuates whatever fat you have left. So what tends to happen, because loose skin has your fat still adhering to it, because there's connective tissue there, usually the areas where the skin is loose is where you keep the largest amount of your subcutaneous fat. It tends to hold on to there. And so until you get leaner and leaner, you're going to be leaner everywhere else, and you're going to end up having an extra pound or 2 of fat in those loose skin areas that you're going to have to diet off. And over time, it'll go down. Like, it's actually tightened up. If people have noticed, it's moved further down, because notice around my core, we start getting below the lats, the upper abs, I'm actually getting leaner and leaner in those areas. I don't have a lot of body fat up there left. So over time, it's just going to gradually move down, but I'm going to have to burn that skin around the waist. That's all you can do. And until I burn more of that off, it's not going to tighten up. So it's going to be there, and you guys are going to see it in the flank area, the love handle area. But people need to understand what that is. So when everyone talks about my bad genetics, they're talking about my loose skin. And realistically, I would say to people, like, if that's a big deal to you, then basically you don't think any person who's morbidly obese should lose weight. That's what you're basically saying, okay? Which is absurd. That's ludicrous. You are not promoting health and fitness. So anyone who is not promoting that because they're worried about loose skin, you're not promoting health or fitness, and you need to not consider yourself to be related to fitness in any way. Because we should be encouraging every person who is as fat as I was to lose 50 or 100 pounds, right? We need to encourage that. They're going to die otherwise, okay? It's critical. So what's going on with this? Some people are going to be like, man, some of your form's a little sloppy. Maybe you're not hitting the bottom on all those chin-ups. What's going on? This is metabolic conditioning. This is general physical preparedness. If people don't understand what this is my off days. This is my non-training days. You guys watch all my heavy days and my speed days. This is here to build conditioning. For the same reason people would do high-intensity cardio, what are we doing? We're using resistance-type exercises with sub-maximal sets. You guys know I can do more chin-ups and dips than this. You guys watch me do these sort of step-ups up on that box with a barbell on my back. However, we're not doing them in a superset fashion. So by doing this, we keep our heart rate up, we keep our breathing deep, we get metabolic conditioning. So people would say, what's the point of that? Well, is there a hypertrophic component? Sure, because you're doing a bunch of training volume on resistance. And if you look at these things that I'm doing, what is it? A loaded carry, chin-up, dips, step-ups, and then glute ham raises, right? Every muscle in my body got resistance training with a fairly high amount of volume. Now, I weigh 220 pounds, right? So this isn't like a 140-pound guy doing this. I weigh 220. So these body weight exercises accumulate. And then when you think in terms of the metabolic stress, we are building conditioning. We're building conditioning. That gets us into shape. The whole purpose of this sort of training is to build work capacity, to build recovery, to replace traditional cardio for a serious athlete. Why? Because endurance work doesn't actually do as much for you. And I'm not saying endurance doesn't have its own component. This is, again, fairly high intensity. It has an anabolic effect. There is a mild muscle building effect to this. And if a person, hadn't built a big base like I've done, they don't squat 500 pounds and things like I do, this would be actually a workout in and of itself. I mean, this is basically what CrossFit type workouts look like, more or less. They built their whole system off GPP and conditioning work. Now for me, I'm trying to build my work capacity up. I am not where I want to be in terms of being in shape. So I've decided I'm going to start filming a little bit of it so people can see what I'm doing with it, and see part of it. I do this stuff every day. Like what you guys see here being done today is about what I do after a max effort squat day later in the day. Okay, this is pretty much a normal training day for me. Now, because this is an off day, I'm probably going to do extra stuff after this. And like I said, yesterday was a non-training day. It was Saturday. I ended up doing 100 chin-ups, 100 dips, but with it reversed. So I did a couple of farmer's walks, a couple sets of step-ups, all of that. I didn't keep it too intense on those. And I focused more on the upper body. And I might do some grip training later today too with my pinch blocks, because I've got to keep working my grip. But this is just conditioning, high activity level day after day after day. This is why I eat so many calories and stay at 220. This is one of the reasons I've been able to start recomping more as we go. All right, this conditioning pays off in terms of again, energy turnover, keeping your total TDE way up, getting you in shape. And when I mean in shape, I'm not talking about the silly physique world in shape. Although conditioning will help make you more efficient at losing body fat, it can help with recomposition. The whole point here is to build the conditioning and work capacity so that we can train harder on our real training days. Because if you're in better shape, let's take like the speed work, for example. My speed work is with really short breaks on the dynamic effort days, okay? If we can get in better shape, we can take short breaks between that and recover faster, because it'll leave you out of breath, right? This gets us into shape. And if we can recover faster between sets, we can get a higher work density. Right? The higher work density, we're going to get more muscle fatigue from the training, like training fatigue. Going to gain more muscle. If we're in better shape because we do stuff like this, we're also going to recover faster. So what people need to remember, some of these exercises you're looking like, well, you're not 100% doing the range of motion. That's because I'm not trying to use these for maximum growth. And people do need to understand that. Will I grow from this? Yeah. I mean, you do 100 dips and 100 chin-ups in a day frequently, there's going to be a hypertrophic effect when you're 200 plus pounds. It's not my primary training stimulus. We care more about just using resistance and using every muscle in the body sequentially to keep heart rate elevated, to keep breathing going. And so if people are running on these step-ups, I take a deep breath before every step-up. Because now I've done enough work, my heart rate's up, right? Those farmer's walks followed by the couple of bodyweight movements, I'm breathing by that point. Heart rate is now going up. So by the time I get to these step-ups, I'm ready to breathe. I need to take a deep breath on every single step. And I try to do about 10 or 12 on each leg. And then, I'm breathing. I'm like needing air by the time we get to the GHRs. And we just build conditioning. But this is about work capacity, so I want that to be clear. Because I don't want people to confuse this with your repetition work for hypertrophy, pure for hypertrophy purposes. So for me, what do you guys see me do every week? So I talk about concurrent training. I talk about conjugate training. This gives you guys a better idea of what my full training looks like. This is the reason things like my squats are going up. This is the reason I'm able to continue to recomp as an advanced lifter in my 40s. That's why you guys have seen me slowly lose fat, slowly gain muscle at pretty much the same body weight, just slowly over time. Being willing to incorporate stuff like this, keeping the work capacity up. And you know what? This lets me eat more quality food. And that's what people need to remember. They're like, man, you're drinking all that milk and everything. My energy turnover is going up. So if you can continue to have a higher and higher maintenance calories or even eating maintenance, what happens? You can get more protein in, you can get more anabolic foods in, higher quality nutrition. You can create a larger anabolic response in the body. Okay? Because your energy turnover stays up. And you are training at all times. The other benefit, even though this is sub-maximal work, there's a certain amount of fatigue being implemented over time. I mean, by the time you get a certain amount of these even bodyweight exercises in, you are starting to get to effective reps. All right, this will keep muscle protein synthesis elevated from your main workouts. Okay? Think of them almost as feeder workouts on top of it, keeping everything growing. This is one reason I'm not doing quite as many supplemental lifts at this point. I'm still doing them, and I want that to be clear. My most important movement patterns get supplemental lifts on my other 4 training days on camera. But it's like people are saying, well, why aren't you doing much back work? Because look how many chin-ups I do. I did 100 yesterday. Now, I didn't do that many today, but even if you space it out over 2 days, I think I did 32 in this one, right? 32. I did 100 yesterday. That's 132 chin-ups in the weekend, weighing 220. And I got my boots on. A lot of chin-ups. Factor in that I do chin-ups every day. My lats are getting plenty of work. I just need to focus on good mornings and other stuff for the rest of my back to go with all the deadlifting. It's a lot of volume. Same thing, why am I not doing any extra real chest work over than overhead pressing and J-arm presses? All those dips. I know my chest needs to grow, but I'm getting a stretch reflex on the dips. I did 100 yesterday, did 40 here. That's 140 bodyweight dips. All right, that's going to help my pecs and triceps. It's going to help my biceps, my lats, all this stuff. These things add up. When you're doing them every day, a lot of volume. So I can just focus on everything else being pure in my training because I'm getting all this other workload in here. It's all covered. But that's the complete picture. We do max effort work, or maxes, and it's true maxes. We do speed work as true speed, which includes not just the speed work, but also the weighted jumps, the plyometrics. Okay? We do all the plyometric work. Then we do higher rep work for all my weak points, which you guys are seeing things like quads, things like triceps. Right? We come in and do a lot of volume for that stuff. Glute ham raises for erectors and hamstrings. But then behind it, look at all the other stuff we do on the conditioning end. It's a lot of total workload. And this gets us into shape. This gets you into shape so that you can recover from those intense workouts and so that we get additional workload on all the muscles. So all the muscles get plenty of training volume. Everything is again, trying to optimize training. And even though these are submaximal sets, they're not really high RPE sets. It's the cumulative effect of the fatigue and the breathing and the conditioning by doing them in a circuit that adds up on top of the other training, right? This is not my primary training. This gets me into better shape so that my primary training, I can recover from it better and do more of it. It's about building work capacity. All right, and yeah, it's a lot, but this is what I mean. If I have the benefit of basically living like a professional athlete at this point, I run multiple online businesses. They all add up. It lets me get away with doing this. I can live this lifestyle right now, so I might as well take advantage of it, and this is what I do. And this is about half of the total conditioning I'm going to do for today. Because tomorrow is max effort bench press day, so I'll see you guys then. So I hope this has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.